The end of the world is a lagging indicator. By the time it's over, it's been over for a while. It's not truly over until there's no chance of it coming back. But sometimes you have to relinquish that hope, put out the candle, say, you know what, it's over. And in the words of a great Bostonian sage, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. The beginning was over a long time ago. Let's catch up. Go insane on your own terms. You can do that now because it is after the end of the world. This is a special break-in episode of Emerson Dameron's Medicated Minutes, LA's #1 avant-garde personal development program. I was going to put this in a time capsule and say, do not open before the end of the world, but why kick the can? I'm pretty sure the world ended at some point. I don't know exactly when we crossed over, but the time to avail yourself of this resource is now. It is after the end of the world. Now you know that. What are you going to do now? Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm Emerson Dameron, LA's #1 avant-garde motivational speaker. I love you personally, and I'm going to tell you. Did I ever tell you how I came to live in Venice Beach? It all began one day on a Ferris wheel in Santa Monica. That's when I lived downtown. My then wife and I would occasionally come out to the beach on weekends, and you could because there was suddenly a train that went all the way from downtown to the beach. If you had told me that was going to happen, I would not have believed you, because life just can't be that good, and yet it is. Sometimes when life is at its worst, it is also paradoxically at its best. For instance, myself and my erstwhile wife, rode the Ferris wheel, and we got up to the top. It stopped. We were rocking back and forth. The wind was blowing so hard that day that I could see seagulls flying into the wind, hovering. The fastest they could fly was as hard as the wind was pushing. So they just stayed there, making no progress, hanging. My erstwhile wife was not able to chill in the same way. She was absolutely miserable. She was freezing. She was always cold at the beach. She didn't like it because it was 10 degrees colder than the rest of the city. She was scared, mad, resentful. At the time, I wanted to comfort her. I wanted to fix the problem. I wanted to take care of this suffering, this person that I cared about. There wasn't a whole lot I could do, so I just decided to enjoy myself. And knowing what I know now, when I look back on that experience, I treasure the memory. I find it highly erotic. And when we divorced, I moved to Venice Beach because I was doing a series of things that I had not felt comfortable doing during the marriage, such as moving my life to a place my then wife didn't want to live, across the 405. As I was walking up and down Oceanfront Walk, as I was doing ecstatic dances, as I was living the end of the world dream, I encountered some merch from a rapper, NBA Youngboy, Never Broke Again. And when I saw that, I got inspired and I said, I'm going to be like that guy. I'm going to be never broke again. I decided the best revenge would be living well, which in my case would require getting rich. So I took 2 full-time jobs. This was during COVID. It was tough, but I started socking money away. I started sacking money away. I had more money than I knew what to do with. I had achieved wealth. I'll skip to the end. I'm now a slightly older boy, and I did indeed go broke again. As I became as financially flush as I've ever been in my life, focusing my idea of wealth entirely on dollars, on American simoleons, I did myself serious harm. I was losing it in other parts of my life, parts involving sleeping and eating, friendships, relationships, human warmth and trust. I was dragging. I would have been hitting a wall if I'd been able to go fast enough to really hit a wall with any sort of violence. The concept of wealth is a little bit more open to interpretation than some of us realize. Fortunately, in Venice Beach, I have a friend who works over at Magic Mind. Her idea, wealth is mental wealth. If you start stacking sleep, diet, exercise, stress management, and exogenous compounds, suggestions, which I know all about because I read all the white papers. Anyone that comes out, I'll at least F-scan it. I did not know the power, the potency of these exogenous compounds when in concert with improving the other areas of life in sustainable ways, making investments in resilience when you are able to do that comfortably so that you will be prepared. That's what Magic Mind is. They hooked me up with the focus shots and the sleep formula, neither of which is a magic bullet. I don't know why you would want a magic bullet, or any kind of bullet, really, unless it's extremely well placed. A bullet is not going to improve things for you. But if you develop habits that help you accumulate mental wealth, you might be disappointed by what you achieve this week and surprised and delighted by what you achieve this quarter or this year. The difference was palpable. I was not crashing. I was not curling up into fetal position and giving up on myself as I often had. And you couldn't tell because I was putting out banger shows the whole time. But mid to late 2024, I was in a place, and it wasn't a happy place. And I got out by making investments around the margins, creating a foundation of mental wealth for myself. And 5 days in, I was back in the game. I noticed I was not angry or scared anymore. And I was able to do that. I was able to save myself through improved focus and the acuity that comes from getting not just sleep, but rest. You can try this too. You have the opportunity to try both the focus and sleep shots at the same time. The union of opposites, polarity, awareness, and rest. You can get them both. 45% off, quite a deal. It does not require a big leap of faith, just a step in the right direction. Get your starter kit, magicmind.com/EmersonJan. Now, it's a little complicated. You can handle it. My listeners are mostly college graduates. Just in case, it's magicmind.com and then Emerson Jan, EmersonJan. By now, you've already made and broken your 2025 New Year's resolutions, but you're surviving. But that's not enough. Now, you can make the leap to thriving. Try the Focus and Sleep Shot starter kit from magicmind.com/EmersonJan. Much of life is dedicated to the denial of death, title of the book from psychologist Ernest Becker. That's on the reading list, so I'm sure you've already read it. If you're just now starting to prep, you definitely need your focus and sleep on point. It's not too late. You can still do it, because if you give up on yourself, or if you acknowledge the genuine difficulty of achieving your goal, you will impede your ability to do it. Whereas if you have ridiculous, ill-advised optimism about your odds of success, then those odds will be compounded by your willingness to do it, your belief, your burning desire that is allowed to flourish. The denial of death is largely the process of the doing of what is conventionally referred to as sanity, which is in fact the most insidious madness. It's conformity. It's taking your own word for what's really going on. It's thinking that your reality is objectively there and not a controlled hallucination that you're having. You might get a hand job when the janitor comes in, but what you have to do after the end, when it's truly all over, and you will know, you will not die before your time. Everyone dies at their time. That is the one and only time that you are ever going to die. You will die at your time. You don't have to be in a hurry to join the choir invisible. It's guaranteed to happen, and it will happen when it does. But you can dislodge yourself from the wheel of life and death ahead of time by acquiring a selective form of insanity, which implies that you will do the choosing, and because you only have options that you know you have, that choosing should be well informed as much as it can be. That's part of the prep work that I'm sure you're way ahead of the game on. You're the best, and I love you personally.
Oh, darling, let me tell you about Bruno. My tragic, delightful sex idiot. He's as muscled as a frescoed cherub and precisely as intelligent. His every utterance is an aria of incomprehensible power talk, some bizarre dialect of testosterone and monosyllables. Grunts, roars, push through the burn. What burn, darling? The man communicates like a protein shake that's just discovered vowels. And yet, there I was in a dimension that felt like an unfinished painting. Somewhere between Magritte's preposterous skies and Kandinsky's spasms of colour and chaos, reality there was a slippery thing, a smear of shapes that couldn't quite decide what they wanted to be. A staircase spiralled upward into the breast of a cloud. A crescent moon floated half-submerged in a pool of ink. Bruno stood at the centre of it all, his body a glistening monument to brute force, his head cocked like an empty and forgotten piece of crockery. "What's the strategy, Helena?" he barked, his voice reverberating like a gong struck in a hall of mirrors. "Strategy!" as though I had a battle plan for the likes of him. And then he charged at me, this living marble slab, this erotic wrecking ball. We collided like tectonic plates and, the landscape quaked. Darling, it was violent. A cubist tango of limbs and impulses. His hands were all at once anvils and feathers, dismantling me piece by trembling piece. He spun me into shapes I did not know my body could inhabit. At one point, I was certain I had become a trapezoid. He painted bruises on me with broad, brutish strokes, as though I were his canvas and agony his art. And when he spoke, oh, his words, pure nonsense. Dominate the quadrant. Activate the core. Stack gains. Gains. I've no earthly idea what he meant, but I nodded, moaned, and begged for more. At one point, he lifted me like I was weightless, an origami crane folded into submission. I flailed, beautifully, of course, a damsel undone by his geometric cruelty. He slammed me against a wall that wasn't there, and yet I felt it, the texture of its impossibility against my skin. I dissolved into angles, reduced to some surreal assemblage of passion and pain, all at the mercy of this absurdly sculpted man. And yet, there were moments, brief, flickering moments, when I saw something in his eyes. Not intelligence, mind you. That would be asking far too much. But sincerity. Yes, that's it. A pure, almost childlike joy as he shattered me like glass. His grin was that of a boy pulling wings off a butterfly, but somehow endearing. Do you know, once he even called me brilliant? Well, his word was, quote-unquote, tight. Tight, meaning brilliant. And oh, the aftermath, darling. We lay there entangled in a mess of broken geometry and perspiration, the air thick with the smell of paint thinner, I think, or perhaps regret. Bruno looked at me with something approaching admiration, his chest heaving like an unfinished symphony. "You're tight," he said, which I took as a compliment, though I'm certain it was meant as a post-workout assessment. And I told him he was sublime. Because really, what else could he be? A sublime idiot. My idiot. My sex idiot. But you know what's funny, darling? Just before I left, as I slipped back into my dress, smoothing its fabric over the constellation of bruises he'd left behind, I caught him looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite place. Was it pity? No, amusement, perhaps? And then it struck me. In his eyes, I was the idiot. The fool in this surrealist farce. His sex idiot. Me! Can you imagine? But, of course, he's wrong, isn't he? Surely I'm the clever one here. After all, I'm the one telling the story.
At some point, somebody asked the surrealist artist Salvador Dali if he was on drugs, and Dali responded, "Dali is the drug." That's me. I am the drug. I'm on some other drugs. That's really none of your business. Some of them are prescription. I got a pharmacy up in my place. If you want to come hang out, you can't because you haven't earned that privilege. But if you do, you'll find out. We'll have some interesting adventures. I don't need any of that stuff because I am the drug. The drugs like me, and I like them back. I am the drug. The drug I'm on is called swagger. I got full confidence, libido. I am alive. I got the rest of eternity to be dead. I got a limited time to be alive. The longer I'm around, the more has already happened, and the less I got in front of me. And right now I've got probably less in front of me than I do behind me. I haven't seen the longitudinal studies on doing the amounts of swagger that I do and the long-term effects on the physiology if it lowers life expectancy. It's well worth it because I don't deal with things in linear time. My swagger is quantum. I could swing it like the pendulum that drives time itself, and I could stop time anytime I want, or I can take that and put it inside somebody who strikes my fancy, and then it's like time doesn't exist. When I bang it out, in her mind, there was never anything before this, and there will never be anything after this. I will just always be pounding it out and railing her with her legs on my shoulders, and that's how it's always been, and that's the way it is. You can understand why she wants to give me the slowest, deepest, most loving blowjob of my life, because I am alive, and I'm dropping bombs on this world. I got more to come. I got classics already circulating, distributed, and that's because I handle my business. I wasn't born this way. It hasn't always been like this. I had to overcome some stuff. I had some difficulties in my life. You can't understand that. You have your own difficulties. Maybe I can't understand your difficulties. Doesn't matter. I dealt with depression, anxiety, loneliness. I still deal with those things. I work with or around my insecurities. I use them. Stage fright. Perfect example. When I don't have stage fright, I know I'm gonna eat it because I know I don't care. Stage fright is my ancient survival instinct kicking in to make sure I do a baller show. And anxiety can be seen in a similar way. That's me getting myself ready to thrive, not just survive. If I've been just merely surviving for too long, that's where the depression kicks in. And that's to let me know that I should go out and get some or make something happen, get things done so somebody else can also GTD in a different sense. That stands for something else. The problem is, it's depression doesn't know when to quit. It takes everything. It makes me think nothing matters, which is probably true, but that's something to be happy about, or at least have some fun with. Haven't always been able to do that, because I think who cares about anything? Well, I do, or I want to, but I can't, and I thought, what's the point of that? I can rock on with my bad self. My life is a party. I invite certain people. You're invited, but the party rolls on regardless. I'm going to do this fun thing at 6:30 on Tuesday, because you got to make it exact. You can come or not. You can have a great time regardless. If you do, I will try to treat you with respect as much as I can. I don't like treating stupid people like they're intelligent, and I might hurt your feelings by accident. Sometimes I just can't help it. That's the kind of swagger you're dealing with. I used to roast people to get myself out of life-threatening situations, and now I do it for fun. You can get into that. You can get down. You can get up and on it, unless you hate fun. Do you have a problem with fun? How do you really feel about fun? Sit with that for a minute. That'll be fun. Or do you want to have some? Do you want to be me? If you want what I have, I can teach you how to get it, but you gotta swagger your own way. Don't bite my style. First of all, it's not gonna be convincing. So you gotta have your own swagger. You can imitate me for practice, but then you gotta develop your own thing. Also, I don't like competition. I want you to think I like competition, but I don't, because I'm a monopolist on my version of swagger. You can get out of my space. I can swagger here by myself. If your girlfriend likes it, tough titties. Hers, because they're standing up. Complementary power moves that you can do in the office or on the field or wherever your octagon or dojo of life happens to be. On the House, courtesy of Emerson Dameron, LA's #1 avant-garde motivational speaker. If you see somebody you want to get some leverage on, and that person asks you if you're having a nice day, say the best day of the rest of your life. They may not like you, but they will damn sure respect you. If you realize that you've said too much and you regret what has tumbled out of your mouth, say to the assembled, I trust you because you are wise enough to keep my secrets. That will shut them up good. This is Emerson Dameron, LA's #1 avant-garde motivational speaker and host of Emerson Dameron's Medicated Minutes on KCHUNG, kchungradio.org, medicated-minutes.com. I love you personally. Levity saves lives. When you choose your illusion, when you exercise your right to be catastrophically wrong about something, choose the flavor that suits you best. And that sometimes requires an ecstatic, dramatic ego death experience. What kind of insanity do you prefer? Do you want to become a paranoid conspiracy theorist? That can make you feel important, like you're at the center of a lot of intrigue, and there are certainly conspiracies going on all the time, right, left, up, and down, all over the place. When people accidentally mix metaphors the way I just did, there's a hidden message in there, because everything means something, and it's all about the same thing, and you know that now, and you can be right about that. Meaning that you can be tragically wrong, but on your own terms. If you want something more chill, you can join a commune. If you're a winner to excess, an overachiever who likes to do things your own way, you can indulge in public humiliation as performance art. Be all that as it may, pick your poison and start chugging. Here comes the fun part. Ego death. It's something to brag about. It's the ultimate in psychological makeovers, like exfoliating your soul with a cheese grater. It's painful, freedom hurts. It's liberating if you survive, which has to be an open question to some degree. The probability of defeat must be greater than 0 in order for the risk to mean anything. Forget all that. Let the party begin. There are many roads up the mountain of ego death, or into the canyon, or into the place where metaphors don't matter. I, of course, prefer psychedelic drugs, particularly 5-MeO-DMT, the venom of the Colorado river toad Bufo alvarius. To crib from Hunter Thompson, I can't recommend 5-MeO, but it's certainly worked for me. I got a break from being Emerson Dameron. Up to that point, I've been in my own company my entire life. It does get old. It was nice to have a break for myself. I still had all my old problems, but because I wasn't me anymore, the problems belonged to someone else for that 15 minutes that was also eternity. The fact that they were other people's problems made them kind of hilarious. I've done a lot of psychedelics, and I had a lot of bad experiences, particularly in the beginning when I was taking out the garbage. So I can't recommend them unconditionally. What I can recommend is the mystical sex route. Tantra, cosmic orgasms, just good old rough sex, which will save the world. So much of what we call evil is just awkward, obvious sexual sublimation. If you could work out your kinks in the bedroom or the dungeon or in the alley behind the bar, you could save yourself a lot of time in tanks or boardrooms screwing out the world. Rough sex. Start having it today. That emptiness is where my insecurities used to be. You can also just lose it. You can spin out. You can spiral out. You can go all in and all out simultaneously, fully commit to the bit, balls out into the wall, and just go bonkers. Coconuts, crackers, bananas, put all that in a blender, lose your mind. Whatever you do, lean into it. See you on the other side. Switch up the tune. Try it and see what happens. And then you will be there. It will be what it is, and yet not. nothing will be everything, and vice versa. All opposites will be united. All problems will be solved. New problems will be created, and those problems too will be solved. Hurt people will hurt people, and those people will hurt other people because hurt people, and that's the law of the land, and that's the only way to get rid of your hurting until someone hurts a masochist. There will be peace in the valley and in the sky, as above so below, beyond good and evil, into the unexplored craggy heights of Electric Ladyland. The only way to get there is to believe that it's possible, which requires the cessation of belief in anything. Enough of the talking. It's after the end of the world. Now you know that. You got your work cut out for you. The best time to get started was before the end of the world. The second best time is now. This has been a special After the End of the World presentation of Emerson Dameron's Medicated Minutes, LA's #1 avant-garde personal development program, medicated-minutes.com, the only good podcast. I'm Emerson Dameron. I love you personally. Levity saves lives. Oh, before we go, when you're ready to take control of your mental wealth and get that handled, you can get your 24-hour bundle, Magic Mind, Focus and Sleep, magicmind.com/EmersonJan, EmersonJan, Sleep, Focus, Repeat. Build your brain savings account starting today.